Hi Tim, this is in response to your abortion video. It's not for Vlogtober and I'm not sure how I'm going to upload this yet, so I'm sorry if this ends up on my main channel and it's a bit strange. I will make sure that the link for the video that I'm responding to does end up in the description if it does end up public and everyone can see it. But abortion is what Tim was talking about, and I just wanted to make a video response because I had a lot to say and I didn't feel like I could do it justice in words in the comments. I think that for me there are four motivations for getting an abortion, and again, this is my opinion and I'm open to talking about it and, you know, whatever. Four motivations. Motivation number one is that you are pregnant, you are a teenager, or you have been doing something nasty, or you're no longer with the person that you were with when you got pregnant and you don't necessarily want to be pregnant for whatever reason, you know, or, you know, you're busy and you just don't feel like it fit in your life right now, or whatever the reason. It's really just, I don't want to be pregnant. Okay, motivation number two is that you found out that your child is going to have a poor quality of life because they're all be hard to look after. You did the screening, found they've got Down syndrome or some other disease that would mean that they wouldn't live much past birth. So, because you don't want your child to live in pain or whatever. Reason number two is that the law of double effect, which is a Catholic principle. I believe St. Thomas Aquinas came up with it. It basically went along the lines of the only time it's okay to have an abortion is if you, if it will endanger your life to keep the child alive. For instance, you've got cancer and you can't get treatment until the baby's born, and you will die soon after the baby's born, or possibly not make it to the baby's birth because you can't get treatment, because you can't have chemo, you got a baby, and the baby won't survive the chemo, so what do? The Catholic principle is that you get rid of the child to preserve the existing life, but there are lots that go along with that too, like how can you guarantee that you're going to live anyway with the treatments? And the fourth reason is that you're pregnant because of abuse, incest, rape, anything like that. For me, I feel like that I don't want to be pregnant is not a good enough excuse to have an abortion. I believe in the sanctity of life in the sense that this child can be loved. You have options. You can adopt your child out. There are so many people wanting babies so desperately. So I really think that that's important. For me, when life starts is really tricky. I had a miscarriage almost a month ago now. What happened, I didn't know I was pregnant. I have a Mirena, which is an IUD device inserted, which is up inside my uterus. I'm releasing hormones. It's 1 in 1,000 that you get pregnant. What happened was an egg got fertilized and attached itself to the wall and on the Mirena, they believe. And I was pregnant for almost a month and I didn't know. And I had a miscarriage, and I didn't know I was pregnant until after the miscarriage. At the time, I was like, it wasn't a life, and I refused to acknowledge it as a life because I wasn't okay with what had happened, and I was really confused about how I felt about everything. I had this real sense of loss, but no idea why, because I didn't know it was there, and then it was gone, and I was just moody and sick. And I kind of, like, thinking about it, you know, I did grieve, and I did grieve for this child that I had, this, you know, that wasn't ever, like, I was never aware of, and I just missed it. I still don't know how I feel about that, and I don't want to put it on the same level as somebody who knew that they were pregnant and really wanted their child, or were 12 weeks pregnant, or anything like that, because that's really different. You know, it's a different experience, different grieving process, and the way, you know, miscarriage physically affects every woman is different. For me, and at the time, you know, I said to my sister, look, it wasn't real. It wasn't a real baby yet. It was just cells that had meshed. It's not a real child. And she's gone, do you really believe that? And I'm going, right now I do. And, you know, ultimately I don't. You know, I do believe that conception is life. And I do agree with the scientists that, you know, life doesn't really stop and start anywhere. I think that the change becomes when it starts creating new life. So it's alive and it unites and it creates something new. And I think, you know, from the second it's fertilized, it's started to create something new. The second a baby starts to grow, you've created something new. And it's a potential person. When it comes to children with disabilities and the screenings that we have for those sorts of things, you know, I think it's brilliant that we can be so aware and so technologically advanced, but I'm not sure it's the right decision, you know, and I think it's really hard. Is there a point? How much can they tell? How much do they know? And where do we stop being selfish and going, look, I just want a baby, or what is being kind and what is not being kind? And a lot of philosophers, I remember, and I forget the woman's name, she's a philosopher, and she was born with a lot of birth defects, and basically there was this particular philosopher she was attending the conference of said, if you meet these characteristics in the screening, you should be aborted, you shouldn't be kept alive. And this woman stood up, and she's one of the greatest minds of modern philosophy, and might have been Mary Midgley. And she said, so you're saying, and she's outlined her condition and was like, you're saying that my parents should have aborted me if they knew? She's like, yeah, if should have bought this child if they knew. And he's going, yes. And I'm going, I am that child. Should I have been aborted? And he had to say yes, because that's his philosophical principle. But she's one of the greatest minds of our time, and I think that's really, it really is interesting. We just can't tell, we just can't know. And I think there's a line, if it's like, well, look, your child hasn't grown arms, you know, is that something that you're like, well, look, physically it's got to be really tough. But then you've got Nick, you know the guy, no life without limbs. He's happy, he's surfing, he's having a life, he's an amazing speaker. You know, so where do you draw the line? And I think it's like really hard, and something that I don't know the answer to, and I don't think anyone really does know the answer to. But I do believe that if you don't think that you can care for a child, then you need to evaluate whether or not you're having an abortion because you don't feel you can care for it, or you don't feel anyone could care for it. Because, you know, again, the adoption process, sure, a kid's got Down syndrome and that's tough, but still, you know, you can't guarantee no one's going to love that child. You can't guarantee that child's not going to do great things. You know, it's not, birth defects aren't a death sentence. Why should we make them a death sentence? And then if you do that, should we bring in euthanasia, you know, or if you've had an accident and lost your limbs, well, too bloody bad, you know, or you've got a brain injury now, well, according to the reasons that we give abortions, we should kill you now, we should euthanize you. Is that right? Is that fair? I don't know the answers. I don't. And the other motivation is that, you know, I've been raped, and now I'm pregnant. For me, I think it depends on the individual. I don't think that we should ever deny a person who's been raped an abortion, because I know someone who was raped and carried the baby to term, and it was a horrific experience for this particular person. She was denied an abortion because Tasmania is a bit funny like that, and she couldn't afford to go somewhere else to get it, and she was just a wreck. She was not okay. She ended up in a psychiatric institution for the last part of her pregnancy because she wasn't coping. She was reliving it every day because this life inside of her was a death event. And you know, she did it so that she could adopt it out, and, you know, didn't try and do it herself for safety and things like that. And I think I'm really proud of her for that. But some women can do it and some women can't. Some women have more resilience than others. Some women could take the child that was a product of rape and keep it and love it forever. I don't feel like we should draw a line and say, look, yes, this is the way that it is. I think that that's a situation where, yeah, abortion should be allowed because it's psychological trauma, and I don't think that we should be adding to the psychological trauma of that event. That's my personal belief. Law of double effect, I think, you know, is this baby going to kill me? I think that's a really tricky one. I've been in a situation where they thought that I was pregnant, and, well, I could be pregnant, and we were waiting to find out, and it would have killed me to go through the pregnancy. Statistically speaking, I wouldn't have survived it. And the doctor's there sitting, so while we're waiting for this test to happen, so what do you want to do if you're pregnant? You know, should I refer you to, you know, get an abortion because you're not going to survive? And I'm like, and I sat there and my mind was just blank, white sheet after white sheet. And my husband's there and he's like, I can't do this without you. I'm not going to. I won't look at this child with love. I would look at it as the child that took my wife from me. I don't think that I could love the child that we brought into the world if it killed you. And we did it knowing that it was going to kill you. Like, it's not acceptable risk. And he would regret it and resent it. So, I mean, there's so much going on there, and I think that it's really hard. Where do you draw the line and what do you do? I think abortion should be legal. I think it should be legal because it's not safe the way people do it at home. I think that I ultimately believe in choice. It's a quote according to Voltaire. It's actually that's actually a quote by Elizabeth Dunn, I believe. And I may disagree with everything that comes out of your mouth, but I will fight valiantly for your right to say it. And I feel like that about a lot of things, especially things I'm not particularly passionate about or I don't have any invested interest in. I will fight valiantly for your right to free will, to do what you want to do. It doesn't affect me. It's not like you're, you know, taking my baby away or forcing me to have an abortion. I don't believe in mandatory abortion ever, under any circumstances. But I guess I believe people should have the right. I believe it should be done safely. I believe it should be legal. I believe that there are circumstances where it should be given as a valuable option. I don't believe, like, in the social work system in Tasmania, it's something that people talk about a lot. Like, if a teenager gets pregnant, like, so do you want an abortion or do you want to keep it? Adoption isn't even mentioned in some cases. I've got a friend who's a social worker in that area, and she's mortified by it. And yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is it's a lot to talk about, but these are some other ideas you might be thinking about and how I wanted to respond to this video. Tim, I hope that it hasn't taken too long. I'm really sorry that I've talked for ages, but it is a big topic, as you're aware. And I hope that this gives you something else to think about and maybe clarify some of your own ideas. And yeah, I'm really enjoying your Vlogtober. So I will talk to you later. Bye!